right, so let's get into it. We're back at it again for another One Piece chapter live reaction. So this week we're on 1155. We have the cover of Shonen Jump. Luffy pretty much all over it. We see him in gear 4th. Bound Man, we see him in gear 2nd. We see him in gear 3rd. We see him in gear 5th. And of course we see him in his original form too. I don't really know much else about what's on the front. It's too bad I don't read Japanese, or I'd be able to say. Oda, do we have any notes? We do. Cuppy Noodles. Super cute. Great mascots are still popping up. Gyaru Cat is super adorable. Purr, like a cat. Like purr. Purr. Yeah, wild. I love Oda. He's got some interesting ways of expressing himself. All right. We also have a color page. We haven't had one of these in a while. I'll be honest. I can't recall when the last one was. We are... What is it? Does it tell us what the Straw Hats are doing here? No, we don't get an explanation. We just kind of see. They're in a pretty normal looking town. I mean, normal relative for the One Piece world. There's some penguins that are flying, which is very One Piece. Birds that don't fly, flying around. Let me see. Nami is scared and holding on to Jinbei, and he's blushing. That's actually pretty cute. Sanji's got his hands open for her. Luffy's jumped into the air with Usopp, and he's freaking out, but Luffy's having a great time eating. Zoro's watching, smiling. Brooks playing the violin. Robin's walking with Chopper and Walk Point, which we don't get to see him in, like, a whole lot at all anymore. And then Frankie's just sitting there with his hand open. And there's penguins flying around them. That's what's really getting me. I love it. Flying penguins, because, you know... Penguins don't fly, but for Oda, they do. The only other thing I really will say of note in this color page is that, well, I mean, other than that, all the outfits are pretty cool for the Straw Hats. I like Jinbei's kimono. Is that we see Gear 5 Luffy on a billboard in the back. He's doing his classic laughing with his hand on his head, and it says "Wanted." So it's like his Jolly Roger, essentially. But yeah, looks really cool, or his bounty poster rather. But let's get into it. The actual chapter, it's titled 1155, The Rocks Pirates. I figured this is where we'd pick back up. We ended with meeting Rocks. It was Shiki, young Miss Stussy or Miss Bakin, right? And then Whitebeard all coming across Loki crying after he has, assumedly just jumped from the upper realm into the lower realm, probably trying to unsubscribe to life, for lack thereof better phrasing. So the narrator starts with Rocks, the legendary pirate, came to Elbaf, but why? And we saw that mountain get cut in half. I will say that too. Then it cuts to Loki saying, baby Loki or kid Loki saying, this is Elbaf, Pops ain't here, he's on a voyage. You're all puny humans, ? This is the first I've ever seen one moving around for real. And then somebody, I'm assuming Stussy, says, aha, how cute. And then somebody, I think this, it says, hang on, did you just say Pops? You're Harald's kid. That's definitely Rock saying that. Based on how he's talking, it reminds me of how Teach actually talks. With the Didja. D-I-D-J, Didja. Whitebeard looks goated, standing there with his Bicento. Isn't that what it's called? Back there on his back. That's really cool. Shiki actually looks kind of cool, too, in the very back. Yeah, but Rocks, he's saying, I'm guessing he can still be reached even if he's away, right? What's your name? He's talking like a pirate. Y-E-R. Loki responds with his name, Loki. Rocks responds then with, all right, Loki, just do what I tell you. Head on home and get someone to send urgent word to your pops. Tell him to say, Loki has been seriously hurt. You've got to return to Elbaf at once. And Loki looks at him and gets very angry and says, watch your mouth. Do I look like I take orders from a human? And it looks like he goes to punch Rocks, saying, you seriously expect my father to drop everything just because I'm hurt? Yeah, right. Besides, someone as weak looking as you has no right to boss me around. And all we see is it looks like he's about to attack him, and I'm sorry. I wish we could see Rocks again. It didn't look like he had any weapons on him last panel we saw him last chapter, but it looks like he's pulling out a sword and using something like the Kamusari. That is a sword. So he reaches down to unsheath his sword, And then it says Rock's swordsmanship was renowned for its brutal impact, akin to a giant hammer or cannon fire. It was said to blow everything in the surrounding vicinity away. And he just swings it forward. Yeah, it's kind of like almost like a rapier style, where it's got like the classic cover over it, and then it looks like a kind of, not a rapier, but like a long straight sword. I didn't see that on him last chapter, which is making me curious as to why. I might check that at the end of this chapter, because I didn't see it on him, and we had a pretty good view of him, and now he's just pulling a sword. But apparently he's a renowned swordsman. It makes sense. Whitebeard and Roger also use weapons. It's kind of interesting then that Luffy doesn't use a weapon. I'm wondering if that's ever going to become a point, if he's ever going to pick up a weapon at all. I assume not with his Toon Force. He's going to be fine. But all the other big names seem to use weapons to a degree, even though it's not their main thing per se. It's something that they use. Shanks and lots of other people, you know. Kaido, Big Mom, everybody had one, except for now Blackbeard as well. But he's got some interesting powers too. Anyways, tangent. Rocks attacks, swings at Loki. It does look like essentially like cannon fire, like it just blows up the area in front of it. Loki, he goes yar, like yah, and he seems to fall backwards. Rocks then says, Vohaha, there we have it. Loki has been seriously hurt. Harold's path crossed with this madman once before, says the narrator. It happened during Reverie that year, ... And then it cuts to somebody saying, someone attacked and kidnapped 5 of the kings. Unbelievable. That big man in black has to be the culprit. And then we drop down and it appears as though Imu is now saying, the lives of those sovereigns cannot be used to extort Mu. We can't tell who is saying this. It's the person saying, no kidding, but it threw the Holy Land into total chaos, didn't it? And then it goes back to the narrator, saying the incident would be the first and last of its kind. An intruder made it all the way to the flower room, hidden deep within the Holy Land. And then we just see dots coming from somebody, and then dots coming from who I'm guessing is Gunko, dressed in like a veil, because they have the... I'm trying to think of the phrase, by something, chromia, whatever it is, where they have 2 different color dyes, one white and one black. And then we just see, yeah, it is Imu, who's looking over at the person who got to the flower room, who all we can see is him holding a gun. It kind of looks like it might be Rocks. It says, the man claimed to be a Davy Jonesian pirate. What? And this is the narrator saying that. What does that mean, Davy Josie? Because we know what Davy Jones is in terms of, like, fiction, right? Davy Jones is Locker. I heard it in SpongeBob a lot as a kid. But I was just talking to my brother recently about an interesting theory that maybe him and I will talk about again after this. A Davy Jonesian pirate. Also, Davy Backfight. We've heard of that, so this falls in line with Rocks. That would make sense then. Yeah, I guess that would make the most sense, since he made Pirate Island and therefore the Davy Backfight. He knew there was nothing more he could do in that moment, says the narrator. So he withdrew with these words. Just wait. One day, says Rocks, I'll be back, as he's staring down Imu. And see, there he has a gun, so maybe he used guns and swords. Rocks just does it all. Narrator, naturally, this incident would never be brought to light. Ironically, on that very day, there was another intruder in the Holy Land. And then it cuts to a bunch of the Celestial Dragons. Look, it's so much bigger than a normal giant. I want it as a slave. No, we should kill it and have it stuffed. Guards, protect the nobles. As it looks like they set Harold on fire. Hot, 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 hot. I'm sorry the negotiations went south, and I know trespassing is a crime. But isn't all this going a bit far? Don't let the kidnapper get away. It wasn't me, I swear. And that seems to be Harold saying it wasn't me, I swear, and I know trespassing is a crime, but it isn't. But isn't all this going a bit far? And it's the guards yelling, don't let the kidnapper get away. Cut to Rocks, who sees Harold, so this is exactly where they meet. An admiral was murdered. The culprit ran towards the castle. Proceed with caution. And that was Rocks. So Rocks left out of the flower room, killed an admiral, which is pretty crazy, and then jumps down and ends up running past Harold. It's just one thing after the other. Sees that biggin. That must be the guy who kidnapped the kings. How dare he use me as a scapegoat? I'll show him. A giant in the Holy Land? Don't your kind lurk in the boonies? Said Rox. Wow, that seems a little racial. And Harald went to swing his sword to clash with Rox, and we see Black Lightning, which would imply that one, if not both, I would bet both, possess Conqueror's Haki. We see them then both struggling. It says the clash between the two strangers blew away everyone within a 5-kilometer radius. That's pretty awesome. It looks like they're having the same type of clash as Whitebeard and them, where they just don't actually connect. That's what it looks like from this panel. It's really awesome. And then it's Rox saying, Vo ha ha ha, state your name. Bara ha ha ha, it's Harald. I'm Rox. Angle your next strike towards the town. They'll enslave you if you get caught. Huh? Why? Don't ask questions. Wah, yeah, that's what they say. How do I get to Elbaf? The new world is that way, he says, pointing. Vohaha, if you survive this, let's meet again, Harald. Don't be ridiculous, as if I'd ever associate with a criminal like you. What the? Are you seriously just gonna jump off the edge? Rox had taken down a Navy admiral just moments earlier. That's crazy. And then, yeah, he did jump right off the edge of the red line. That's pretty cool. And he just points Harald in the other direction. Then the narration continues. I'm sorry, I was just looking back at the panel. So, Rox had taken down a Navy admiral just moments earlier. Despite all the efforts to save him, the admiral did not survive. It was deemed the most grievous of sins. In the blink of an eye, Rox's infamy boomed. The event sent a powerful shock throughout the seas. Rox D. Zebek. We don't see what it is, but we see his bounty poster, but we don't see the bounty. Hoping we get that at the end. Sometime later, just... and then it cuts to narration. A ship carrying a great amount of celestial tribute to Marie Joie was attacked. The gates of justice were destroyed, and the attackers fled the scene. The stolen funds were later used to support Rox's pirate activities. That's interesting. It means he just, normal pirate stuff, guys. He's literally the pirate who is the most piratey pirate by how he talks and how he plunders. Until that point, Rox had always acted against the world government, but after that, he started to target pirates too. And he has a bunch of wanted posters he's looking at. Narration says, in the world of pirates, there exists a long-standing tradition known as a Davy back fight. We're finally getting this to be relevant again since Long Land after Skypiea. We knew this would come up at some point, as we knew he was related to Pirate Island, which Robin mentioned long ago, and saying this is where it originated. Narration continues. Pirate crews would compete in a series of matches, wagering their flags or even their crewmates in a truly ruthless game. Rox used this tradition to build his entire crew, and this was the fan theory about Rox, since before we knew his name was Rox, whoever was going to be the guy of Pirate Island. And that he was going to be like Davy Jones, which is what they're saying. They've got an amazing guy. You'll lose... I'm sorry. This looks like Rox saying, they've got an amazing guy. You'll lose it when you see him. Narration then says they had won many scoundrels to the side before they even had a flag, which appears to be Whitebeard early, Miss Bakeen early, Shiki early, somebody else that we can't see. Narration then says after that they made their way to Elbaf. So this is so before he actually has a pirate flag. And then we cut to narration. Elbaf Quest Castle. And then we're at the castle. Oh no, I rushed home as fast as I could, but I'm glad you've already turned the corner. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble reading this for some reason. But I'm glad you've already turned the corner on your recovery. Thank goodness. I know that you're strong, Loki, but you shouldn't wander into the realm of the dead. You got lucky escaping with nothing more than that after falling off the cliff. There's plenty more dangers just lurking deeper inside, as Loki's just thinking with dots. Harald has no idea how strong his son actually is. And Loki's sitting there, like, really kind of like I'd say oofed, for lack of a better word. Like, he's upset because he hasn't experienced love, but he can tell his dad actually did drop everything he could once he got word and rushed back. Like, that's actually what he did. And he does care about how Loki feels. And so Loki's thinking, Dad really came back? It has to be a coincidence. He couldn't have come for me. And then somebody says, Rox, I've heard all about your crimes. What are you doing here? I missed you, Harald, he says. You gotta join my crew. The world government won't hear you out, right? You get it now? The time has come. This is a real feast. Jihaha. We see, yep, Shiki, Miss Bakin. We see Whitebeard. And then we see what at least one of the zombies from Thriller Bark, the big guy who had like the big gold or like silver armor, who we're guessing was Golden Axe, what was it, or Silver Axe, Wang Ji, or I don't remember what the other name was. Yeah, Golden Axe or Wang Ji. And then we have a guy who looks like a classic mobster with a cigar and a cool hat. Somebody says he sure is big. And some guy who kind of looks like a, like, the best way I can describe him is he looks like a mix of a vampire and then Buddy from Blackbeard's crew. The guy who has the glug glug fruit. I can't think of what his name is. Vasco Shot. He looks like Vasco Shot because he's got the multiple chin thing. So that's the king of Elbaf. Harald then says, "Don't be stupid. If I anchor myself with a thug like you, I'll lose all the good will I've built up with all my allies." What of it, Rock says. Aren't those allies government pawns? What's the point of reaching for something that's impossible? You gotta level the playing field. Don't be a wet blanket, Harald. Elbaf has the greatest warriors in the world. If something churns your stomach, you should just crush it. Wow. I want to know who this other guy is, because we could guess that one of these guys is Silver Axe and the other one is Wang. But the thing is, we saw this one guy, like we said, at Thriller Bark, but we don't know who these other guys are, so I'm kind of curious to figure out. Harald then says that's the old way. Elbaf has changed. Rock says people never change. That same bloodlust is still pulsing through you. Whitebeard says, "Hey, you can't you two just enjoy the meal?" I'm with Whitebeard. Harald says, "You guys should know that if you follow a man like him, you'll only be led to ruin." Shiki's eating and thinking, starts laughing and says, "Following that moron? Jihaha. Don't make me laugh. We're all completely out for ourselves. None of us would bat an eye if Rox died." Shiki the Wicked. We didn't know that was his title. Future to be titled The Golden Lion. Miss Stussy, or Miss Bakin, which is Buckingham Stussy. It says the Tech Bandit is her name. Well, that's not to say his plans don't have a certain appeal. They could prove very lucrative. The guy with the hat, his name is Don Marlin, a gangster from the West Blue. That's cool. That might actually be one of the Dons who, I think Beiji's from the West Blue, so maybe from one of the other families before them. Have you heard of Hachinosu, the place they call the Isle of Isles, or of Exiles, or even Pirate Island? Countries all around the world send their worst inmates there as a form of penal exile. Whitebeard then says, it was meant to be a barren island with no food where all you could do was wait for death. Edward Newgate, future to be called Whitebeard. And then the next guy is called Pirate Prophet Ochoku. We'd heard of this guy too. This was the guy that was on a future Commodore of Pirate Island. Yeah, this is the guy that Blackbeard actually took over Pirate Island from. But last year the survivors started banding together, and why do you think that happened? The last guy's name is Ganzui. The Smuggler is what he's called. But he looks like who we imagined was Silver Axe, or maybe he's still not. And we'll see a Silver Axe later, because he's one of the last names that we had heard that was on that crew that we haven't seen. And he's saying, believe it or not, the island had a massive gold deposit. A shadowy organization found out and got involved. They helped the criminals amass a fortune. They really pissed off the government. Rock says these days, anyone who gets near the island gets swarmed by the hardened criminals. They'll strip you of everything. So then we cut a deal with the government. I asked, how much are you going to pay us if we take back that island for you guys? Once we get the money, we'll take down Pirate Island and split the mountain load of loot between us. But there's no way in hell we'll just hand over the island and those criminals after that. Get it? I'll take charge of Hachinosu, and with these dumbasses under me, we'll turn it into pirate paradise. I can already see the government and Marines standing there like clueless dogs. Oh, ha, ha, ha. This is just the prologue to my life, using that island as my base. I'll crush the Navy, bring the Holy Land crashing down, and after that, I'm going to be the king of the world. Harald says, your enemies are too big. You're picking a fight with the whole planet. Rock says, say what you want. One day someone's bound to pull it off. There is no such thing as power that lasts forever. Join me, Harald. If we team up, we will be unstoppable. Loki seeing this from outside the door. Quit inviting me. I told you, I'm king. Or I'm the king. That doesn't matter. The world. I'm going to go claim it. The whole damn world. Loki suddenly realized he found salvation, says the narration. 4 years passed. Harald couldn't reject the numerous invitations he received until one day Rock's plan had finally reached fruition. Backed by his monstrous crew, he would send shockwaves. Set sail, you bastards, throughout the new world. The legend embarks, and we're on a break next week. But that would imply until he received until one day Rock's plan. So we would assume then that he did end up joining them, and Harold was also a part of the Rocks Pirates, which is pretty awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing more of the Rocks crew. I want to figure out who Silverax is, unless it's that Gansui guy. Maybe that's the translation that we'll get. Who knows? That's the only one I could still think of. But all these guys seem really cool. It does seem as though Rocks pretty much went everywhere and just gathered a bunch of badass people for his crew, and they're all just kind of following him because it's what they were meant to do. But at the same time, I think as a pirate, you have every right to just not, like, leave your captain. No, I don't know what the rules are on it. Like, Luffy and Usopp had a duel. We haven't really seen many pirates, like, leave their captain before. Typically, you have, like, undying loyalty to your captain. So, Jinbei left the Big Mom Pirates, but that was a little different. Anyways, really good chapter. We're on break next week. I don't really have much to say because I'm assuming we're just going to keep up with exactly what we're doing. We're just going to be back onto the chapter, back onto Rocks and the flashback again next week, and proceed and figure out what's going on. We'll probably see some more of the Rocks Pirates. The incident on Marie Joie was pretty crazy, I'm not going to lie to you, and seeing Gunko looks to be the same age, roughly, maybe a little younger. Hard to say. It wasn't that. I mean, actually, it was a pretty long time ago, right? So, yeah, she probably doesn't age. So, she's probably like a vessel for Emu, for whatever reason. Loki living a random hit from Rocks is a pretty big feat for him as a child. From what we saw of all the Rocks Pirates, they all look really cool. I'm looking forward to figuring out their bounties, too. At least Rocks is. They're hiding it on purpose. So, we know it's going to be a drop here soon for a reveal. So we'll see, but overall, really good chapter. The last thing I will do, I will very quickly go and take a look at the last chapter and see if I can't see if Rocks has a sword or the gun that we now saw him with in this chapter. See if I can't see him carrying either. So it started with Big Mom. He didn't appear till the end. Come on, yep. Here we go, Billy and the kids jumping down, can't even die. Alright, so what do we see of everybody walking up? Nope, we don't see anything. We see like a chain hanging off of his pants. I mean, it's a decent angle for Oda to argue that he kind of hit it. But I think we should have seen it, or should have seen it maybe in this other panel where we see silhouettes. Because we can assume that Buddy Appears got to be Rocks based on the hair and his angle of where he's at, located based on the other people, right in front of everybody. We don't see his swords, but to be fair, we don't see Shiki's from his silhouette, but we do see them clearly on his person. And Stussie's even carrying something that we don't really see in the silhouette, but we sure do see it in her hand there. So I'm a little... I mean, it doesn't... I mean, he could have. It could be a devil fruit. He might not have a devil fruit. I don't know what devil fruit would let him do that. Nor do I think that'd be something Oda would do. Give him something like that, like the dumb pocket fruit or something, like Buddy's got. So I don't know. He probably just has it, and he didn't, really show it very well in this panel. But yeah, interesting that he's not only a swordsman, but apparently his swordsmanship was renowned. So he was actually pretty great for his swordsmanship, not just for anything else, but also that. So, anyways, we're going to just cut it there. Keep it real simple. Really good chapter all around. I'm looking forward to the next one, but we are on break, so I figure we're not going to get a new chapter until early August, maybe late July. Let me take a look at the calendar. What do we got? So I'd assume the next chapter would have dropped on the 24th, roughly, to the 25th. So yeah, we're probably not going to get one. If we're lucky, we'll get it right at the end, 30th or 31st of July, but odds are it'll probably be more like the 1st of August. We'll have our next chapter. So until then, I'll see if I can, in the next week, put out another video of some kind. Maybe I'll read back over the chapter and do something different, or who knows. But it was a good chapter. I'm looking forward to the next one. We'll just kind of have to see how things keep progressing. I mean, the Rocks flashback is cool. It's kicking along pretty fast, but we kind of expected it would. But there's still a good bit left to get up towards God Valley, and then we might get to see what happened to God Valley, which will be really awesome, so we have a better understanding of what's going on Elbaf with the Celestial Dragons and the Roger Pirates like Scopper, knowing about them already, and the God's Knights and all that. Garling and maybe Shanks and all that good stuff. So hopefully we'll just keep going along at a good pace, keep seeing more cool characters. We'll see. But until then, like I said, hope everybody has had a good week. Hope everybody has a good couple weeks now to come. And if you haven't, go out. Tell somebody you care about them. Tell somebody you love them. Go pet your cat. Go hug your mom. I don't know. But just know somebody cares about you, and you should tell them that you care about them. So anyways, hope everybody has a good couple weeks, and we'll be back later. Bye.